So I would like us to get started and look to see what we've been able to achieve so far. So the first part, is there any question regarding software packaging and how to distribute software? Is there any question regarding that? The first question that I wanted to know before we proceed was whether everyone has been moving with this guide. Because we shared this guide on Tuesday, and I wanted to know if people have been using it, which I've gotten several people, and that's very funny, who have not seen this link. That's a little bit interesting, but it's okay. I've seen Maranga, I've seen Nancy. Okay, that's okay. So so now going back to Mercy. Sorry, is it Mercy? Not Nancy, it's Mercy. Okay.
Yes.
Going back to your question, please. Now your question is, Marlene, the question was on, can we repeat the question of packaging? Is that the question, Marlene?
Yes, that was the question. Can you repeat the concept about software packaging?
Okay, so that's okay. So let's say, yeah, it's okay. I'll give you a small demo. That will be okay. So the idea is it, and let us start from the idea, Mercy. The idea is very simple. You may write the way when you write your Angular code, you want to run it as HTML and CSS files. CSS and maybe JS files. Those static files on the web server. That's a very simple way of saying that's packaging. So basically, that's rather rebuilding, converting your solution into what you have written code into something else. So for the sake of this, I'll go and create a very simple project, or a very simple Spring project, and then I'll show you. So this is com.pmutisia. This is OYF package. So that's okay, and I run it in Java 11. So this is just a place where you can go and start a very simple Spring project, but the focus is not on the Spring part. We'll focus that when you're looking at the backend. I'll add that dependency here. Don't worry about this. I just say Spring Web. That's okay, and generate. So when I generate, and I want us now to focus on these. I want to share my entire screen. So when I do that, and I want us to go up to the point where we are writing the code. Can you see my screen?
Yes, you can see the screen.
On Spring. Yes. So I'll extract my content here. Okay, let me not write commands here, because if I write commands, I'm in trouble. Extract here. These are the files. These apps, LAN, where is my LAN part, then LAN string. Or you can just go to OYF. Okay, that's okay. Then I just paste this here. And now I can open this in I can just open it in an editor of my choice. And up to this point, I want us to just be together. But at this point, when you look at this is a Spring project. When I look at it, this is what I have. I have a Java file. That's it. I have some properties, and that is it. Is it okay? Okay.
Yes.
Yes. So now the idea, the concept of packaging is very simple. That at times, and a number of times, and that's why I started by introducing guys to the first concept, which I don't know if you understand the question of compiled and interpreted languages. For interpreted languages, our work is very simple because we don't need to convert them to anything. For compiled languages like C, you have to convert them to something that can be executed on the machine. But for interpreted languages, you don't need to do that. Is that okay? So compile. That's why I started. I started the first part at just looking at that. So, Mercy, even as we begin, I hope you understand that. I hope you understand what compiled languages, what interpreted languages are, and hope you understand that Java is a compiled language.
Yes, I understand that.
That's okay. So now the second question is what would we be running? So for this file, for this I can say to go several ways. Remember what you'll be running can be just it can be very many things depending on what you want. So for the sake of this discussion, I'll introduce something which is not very relevant for this discussion, but I'll introduce a packager for Java. It is to package this to manage dependencies. It's called Maven. So the question of Maven is not very relevant for this discussion, but it should help us in repackaging our solution. So I'll just do Maven package. So I'll do Maven package. If you are doing, if in this case, if you are on Angular, you would have done something like npm ng build. It should be the same thing. If you're on PHP, because it's an interpreted language, you may not need to do anything. If you're on Laravel, maybe you would have done something else. If you're on Python, you would have done something else. Yeah, actually, Python is interpreted too. You don't need to do anything much. Now it is getting some dependencies for me. That's not part of the discussion. But what is happening right now is that if you look at my my code before, it just contained that under test folder. Now it's supposed to go and create something else, and that's what you call a package from my solution. And I want you to look at it has run some tests. And I want you to look at what has it said here? Building jar. Can you see that line? You can see that line, yeah? So it has built a jar file, which is more of a Java archive for everything, for everything that my program needs. And that is what you call, that's an example of a build. So in that case, if I come here now, I'll see a folder called target. And in that target folder, I'll find something here called OYF package, some version, and .jar. So if I look at it here, I'll also be able to see it. And this is the file. Now that's the first part. That I'll write code this way. I'll write code this way. Sorry, I was in the middle of some work, so don't worry about that. I'll write code this way. I am able to do some other things here, but what will run for my case, and it's a choice that I have, is this. So that is the concept of packaging, that at some point you would need to, you would find yourself writing some code in something like Java, but you want to run a Java archive file. Why is it, and there are many more ways of running this, but I just want to focus on that archive part. Why is it easier to run that? Because now this is an executable. This is what we call something that can run. So in this case, if I come and I put Java in jar, I go to the target, and my file was called what? OYF. If I do that, my project runs. Okay, well, the port is already in use, so whoever is using that port, let me stop it somewhere else. Let me stop that port which is already being used. Docker. Yes, but do you understand the concept of packaging in this case for Java? You understand that?
Yes, please.
Okay. Peter.
So, yes.
Maybe I could also, I was actually thinking of something else that that we could use to illustrate.
Yeah.
I don't know whether you can allow me to share my screen.
Yes.
And then I just do something here. I'll share my screen also. So that packaging, I know sometimes you could look at things and they look very abstract. Yes. So I'll take you guys to the basics so that at least some of you might be familiar with jar, as Peter has mentioned. But I'll also come here and create a simple class in Java for some of you who might be familiar with Java. And I'm going to call it a test class. What it does is that it has, I'm using an IDE at that particular point. This is my source code. So I could copy this and I have it as that. So it's basically looping 10 times, but I want to do thread.sleep so that it sleeps for 100 milliseconds. So, and then of course, this throws an error. Don't worry, this is Java specific. If you ever, yes, so that's okay. Don't worry. So it will basically do a count of 10, or maybe I can make it exciting so that we see a bit. Now, what I have written is the source code. And I can come here because I want to use other tools to showcase something that we want to do. I'll come here and I will create this code of mine. And I will save it in a folder called repository, Natujenge software, and then test inside that folder. And I'll save it. Sorry, what did I just save it as? Save as. And I'll save it as test.java. Some of you know that in Java, you have to write a file with an extension .java. In C, you write with a .c. Now, if I want to give this, assume this was a very intelligent application that does something quite interesting. It's a lead test. Natujenge, sorry, I think there is a folder called that and tests. I've just created this. Now, in simpler term, the key thing is when we write code, let me remove that file so that I'm left with one. We have our Java file. But assume this was an intelligent application that has so many things to do. I will not send this thing to the users to run it on their machine. So what do? We compile in Java. And compiling, we do that. And if I do Java compile on the command line, one of the things that you'll note, if I do ls, I have two files. This .test class, this file that we have can actually be sent to people and they run it on their machines. So you can consider it in the simplest way that I'm able to package what I wrote into a .class files and I can send them to guys and they can run it. Now, if I send this to guys, I'll tell them to run Java tests. And if they run it, it will do the counting. Now, I cannot distribute test.java, but I'll distribute it. But in ordinary scenarios, as Peter mentioned, we don't even distribute .class. We actually put the many classes in your project into a Java file or a Java archive, meaning it's like a zipped folder that has many .classes inside, and I can ship it so that people can go and run it on their machines. So, but again, you can also do other things. So there are many ways of shipping the same code. You can ship it as the .class files, which is too complex, crude, primitive. We don't use it. We ship it as .jar, which is common today. But again, we can also decide to ship it even as an image so that it also comes even with the environment configurations and everything, the container image, which now someone can actually pull it and run it. So I hope you see that when you write code in C, you have to compile it to .o or .object files. Sometimes we don't ship the .object files, we put them into another thing, and maybe we ship a .binary distribution, .bin, as Peter mentioned, all other things. Now, if I speak about packaging when you're writing HTML, it is foreign, it doesn't make sense. Because in HTML, we don't do anything. We just copy the source code and push it for people to go and run it. So you might get a bit confused, but ideally, you must send that data as it is. Now, if you're writing in TypeScript, as Peter said, or if you're using the alternative to CSS is CG SAS, CG CSS, something, all those things. The key idea is when you're shipping them, just like the way we write code in .java and you have to ship it in something else. Even in TypeScript, we write it in .ts and you have to ship it in something else. So that process of converting what you had originally to what you can ship so that people can go run it or can deploy it is part of the packaging process. So the output could be an archive, Java archive if you're doing Java. It could be a WAR file if you're using Java, web archive. or it can be any other thing depending on the technology and the language that you use. I hope that also supplements what Peter has mentioned. And Peter, I hope I have not confused your people.
No. Actually, that was very helpful, and thank you, Kamochu. So I hope you now understand that, and we'll come to you, Maranga, after this. But I hope you now understand that if and Kamochu, before you leave, and Mercy, this goes to you and anybody else who maybe has not understood that concept of packaging. The idea is very simple. If I share with you the .java file, that is the file that I'm working on, what will you have to do? You'll have to compile, then run. Is that okay? If I share with you the .class file, I have saved you one step. You will not need to compile. Is that okay?
Yes.
So now, remember, the idea is to keep closing the gap. To keep closing the gap between like how much the person who is running needs to do. Because the more the person who is running your software needs to do, the more the chance that they'll do it wrongly, and then they'll tell you this thing is not working. So the idea is to close the gap so that by the time these guys are running these things, they are running the exact same thing. Okay, I hope that's clear. Yes. Okay. So that was the concept of packaging, and I welcome any other question regarding packaging and how to ship your software. I will welcome that question. So there is so many places, demos that you can use. For example, you can say to use a example of Spring. As I have said, that was the quickest thing in my mind. You can use a class file in Java, as Kamochu has done. This can also run as what I have here can also run as those class files. It is still okay. You can go and use, you can go and try to package your application to run on Windows. Just you can try to do anything, and there are different solutions that help you in the packaging. But remember, your user will not be running the .java file. They have to take the extra step. So by creating the .class file or creating the .jar file, you have saved them that extra step. And thereby, for example, to package that class file, maybe Kamochi created the class file in Java 8. So to package it, the .java file in class 8, in Java 8, sorry. So to package it, what does Kamochi have to do? Anyone, it is a must that Kamochi tells you, all of you is all Java 8. Even if you are in Java 11, you have to go back to Java 8. So at least you save people that step by saying that, okay, that's okay, I've done this step, you don't need to do it. Okay, so that goes for the entire step of understanding the unit of distribution. Remember, it's what you distribute to the user. But if you distribute something that is very close to you as the programmer, then the user has to do more things for them to get to the end. So for that, I think I'll ask for any more questions regarding this first part. And now I hope now you can go and look at it from an easier point. Yes, the idea is to close the gap. So I'll go before we leave. The first question I can see here comes from Henry. No, sorry, there's an Henry that I know who is called Henry Maranga. So I think Maranga, you're not Henry, sorry. You may be Henry, but I have not baptized you Henry. Can all code be packaged in Docker? And your question is regarding Android or Flutter apps, or is it for specific language? You are new in the world of Docker Kubernetes. Thank you. To answer your question, the idea of packaging. Let me take you through a step of how to package an Android application. Yeah, let's say you write it in something like the Kotlin. So the idea is to do whatever you can, convert it to the APK. Is that okay? So you take it up to the APK. That is what will be running. Now, the concept of Docker is actually a concept. It's actually a narrower concept. It doesn't. Not all applications can be run in Docker, and that is the truth. Because, for example, can you run Google Chrome in Docker? This Chrome that I'm using to do the presentation here? Most likely not. Why? Because at that point, the Chrome needs to be packaged as a .db file, and then you present it like it is installed. So most of the time, and please don't confuse this. Think of Docker as helping you put your applications on the cloud, and that's why even when we went to containers, the earlier topic was how to run web applications. Think of containers as for web applications. These are applications that are running somewhere where they should be accessible on the internet. So that is the honest response, Maranga. You have sent the question directly, so maybe others may not be able to see it. But there is a part that you need to know. If your application is running on Android, but it is saving some data, like maybe you are creating a game on Android or on iOS, and you are saving some information for the user, or you are allowing users to work together, you'll find yourself having a backend. You'll find yourself needing an application, a web application. Rather, a web application is not a website. It's an application that's running somewhere accessible on the internet. M-Pesa is a web application. I don't know if you know that. It's a web application because you and I are able to access it irrespective of where we are. So that by itself, you'll most likely find yourself needing another application other than the APKs that you have given to your brothers at Google to install for you and to put in their Play Store and the iOS store. What you'll find yourself having an extra app that needs to do the coordination of everything. So yes, even if you are creating Android or those what are they called? Those Flutter, Ionic, hybrid. Those hybrid apps, you'll find yourself still needing containers because at some point you need a web application to help coordinate your applications. Your other two applications. Maybe if you need to get the score of someone, you'll save it somewhere on the cloud. Then when they are running the application, you get them. If it's a chat, then the messages will have to be saved somewhere, and that will be the cloud. Yes. So is that it? Is that all? Is there any other question regarding the unit of distribution? So irrespective of which code you write, where you write, you have to distribute your software. Have you been able to understand how the language that you may have chosen because you thought it was cool? Have you been able to see how it is the software is distributed? In case you don't remember, you have not been able to get, you can raise it here. I'll give you a direct answer. Oh, welcome, Maranga. I'll give a direct answer, please. In case, is there anyone who is writing a language where they don't know how to deliver the solution? And just for the sake of understanding, there's Python. Yes, Philip, that's okay. I'll explain that. But before I go to Python, there is something that you also need to know. I was supposed to put it here, but I actually forgot about it. If you are running in Angular, for example, or React, you can have npm run dev or something. That is to run when you are doing the development. For example, have I shared my old screen? Can you see my terminal?
Yes.
Oh, awesome. Yes. So for this project of mine, remember to run it in production, I can do what I've done. Package then run the jar file in this case. But run it when I'm developing, I can just do something like this. Spring-boot :run. I think it's something like that. It should run. But now, and this is the same thing as say ng. Wait, Angular people, how do you run in development?
NGServe.
NGServe, yes, thank you, NGServe, or npm run dev. I think for the guys at React and all those, there could be another way, but at least I know this. So these are similar way, but this will run the application. But remember, you can't. It will do a few things which may be a little bit out of uncouth, because you could find that it is responding to changes. It is not very optimized to running in the production. So these not, don't say that, don't let people not okay, don't like people ask you, how do you run your Angular app, then you say NGServe. No, that's how to do it when in development. When going to production, you have to do more, because your application, as we said, can be hit by multiple people. I'm seeing several questions. Python is an interpreted language. So Bwana Philip, Python is an interpreted language in this concept. So so in this case, if I write a Python class, I just go and do Python. So for example, if I write this is a .python, I don't think I have a Python thing, but let me see. I could be having. Then you just what you do is that you just need to put Python something, and that is it. Let me open this folder here. Recent. Okay. So yeah. Assuming I have a OYF gives. Yes. Assuming I create a Python file here. File.py. So something like this. I just put nothing. Then to run it in Python, you just do this. So in this case, maybe Python 3. My version is Python 3. That's it. That's how you run it in Python. And the funny thing is that that's even how to run in production. So
actually, I wanted to comment on. You see, it's like if you write HTML, it's ready. You don't.
Yeah, it's ready.
So the only thing that people do now as part of the packaging, and I commented, you could uglify, because sometimes your JavaScript, you want to, there is something called obfuscation. So you don't want people to see the code the way you name the variables. So sometimes there are tools to translate that JavaScript into variables that don't make sense, so that if someone tries to not decompile, if someone tries to look at the code, it will be very difficult for them to look at it. So those are the things. And then again, when you're writing code, you have a convention of indenting. Those white spaces are a waste of bandwidth. The browsers don't need the white spaces. So as part of the build, you might find that there are tools that actually get rid of the white spaces. But depending on the language, the build could be compiling. Some people could actually call it build or packaging. But the differences vary. What to a PHP, we write the source code, we deploy it as is. Yes. And I guess that's how the Python people do also.
PHP, same thing. Laravel. Peter, my name is Sakia. Peter, I don't know of Laravel, honestly. But according to me, you have to convert it to PHP.
It's the same. It's like Laravel is like it's just a framework, but it runs. It uses PHP still, unless nowadays they have some additions that require. If Laravel has statements that are not fully compliant to PHP, then you might find that there is a process of converting those things into PHP. Ni kama watu wa Kotlin, eventually during the build process, it goes to Java bytecode. So there is that process of converting the Kotlin, because Kotlin statements are not compliant in Java. But we know behind the scenes, the Kotlin code will be run on. I understand, I'm not a Kotlin guy, but I understand it will be run using the Java JVM. So you will have to convert it into you take it back, down.
Actually, maybe I can just clarify for the Kotlin. Kotlin used to be a Java subset like TypeScript, but I think they moved their own way. Nowadays, it's a full JVM language like GraalVM, something. Yes, but for PHP, I made the comment here. if you have something in Spring Boot that is not compliant in Java, you have to convert it to Java. Then you run it as the way you run Java files. Same thing for PHP, Laravel. I've seen someone asking on .NET. Anyone who has an answer can answer that. I have. I hope Windows people are not here. I have very low history with Windows. We have never worked together. So .NET, I don't know, but I think it should be. I know the syntax for the .NET languages like C# is the same as is almost the same as Java. That's the best I can do. But how to run .NET, I think you can just do Google. You can just go and how to run .NET. .NET project. Yes, and you'll find your there are very many things. They have sharp. There are so many languages you're supposed to. I think at least you can look for such a thing. But yeah, I think that's the spirit. How to run it. I don't want to lie to you. Please go and take a look, and being more suited in that language, I expect it to run almost similar as Java, because .NET is the runtime. C# and all those other Visual Studio, Visual Basic, there's Visual something. There's a visual language for those guys. Should be the subsets. Okay, so can we say comfortably that the question of compilation, those minification has made sense? And you guys are able to take a deeper look at it. Can you see that? Or does anyone have any additional question?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so that's yes to if you have a question, please pose it. We don't close questions. So let us go to the next part. Web applications. And web applications, I said that web application is an application that is running on the that runs and is accessible on the internet. That is a very simplistic definition, but it's also true. So in case anyone ever asks you about a web application, actually that's a definition. So now what is a server? Did you guys make sense of that? What is a server? And what are VMs? What is embedded servers? How to do setup for the different projects, understanding the root folders for web pages, understanding configurations, how to do those configurations. Is there any question regarding this? Did you guys manage to understand this? Is there any question regarding this part? Question of servers, virtual machines. I think these ones were taken a little more time on the other time you were here. Please, if you have a question, ask it now. Please ask it. So if this Java, as I wait for guys to ask the question, this Python could be this mine does nothing, but this Python project, this Python thing could be a Django application that runs and it shows you some interesting videos that you can upload yours and watch. So the idea is very simple. I take it to a server like let me just type a command that is not very human friendly. A server like this one, whose IP I know, and when I put it here, then I'm able to give you a link, and I tell you, go to this, type this IP, and then you run it, and then you'll be able to all of you'll be able to be served by this single application. Now the question of IP has come up. In addition to that, I can do some things called domain name mapping. He said, I don't think you guys know the IP of Google. You don't need to know. Its numbers are not very safe to humans, but names are. For example, if I know Malin, if today Malin told me to be calling a 134, which one is more characters between 134 and Malin? It's Marlin is longer. But because Marlin is a name, I'm able to relate. Even if something is called come here, go there, and come again, it is still is simpler than saying 2.2.3.4. Still simpler to the human mind. So for this case, you put it in a server, and then the question. So I was in a server now, and I hope I don't know, we'll organize so that you all of you can get into servers and you can put your applications there. Yes. So I have a question regarding servers. Just is Tomcat being used in Spring Boot as an example of an embedded server? Perfect. That's a very good question, and a very good. It's actually the answer to the question. Yes. So I ask you guys about a server. The first thing about a server is that it's very many things. For example, let me make this very clear. It will be confusing. What I've gone into is a server. Is that okay? Where that thing is running. Okay, assuming, I don't know if anyone has ever gone to a data center. Yes, I'll also explain the embedded server. Assuming, has anyone ever gone to a data center? What you see there is also called a server. But inside that data center, okay, let's take the example of your laptop. Your laptop is a server in this case. If it's connected to the internet and it's accessible from anywhere, it's a server. If I put several virtual machines, like I run Ubuntu here, Kali Linux there, Windows there, those can also be called servers. And if I run my application, let's say a web application, inside my Ubuntu virtual machine, inside your laptop, which we have said everything there is a server, then I can also say I have an Apache web server running on a Ubuntu VM server, which is running on my HP laptop, which is another server. So the term server by itself does not mean anything. And I hope you understand that now. It doesn't mean much, but so let us go to very specifics. Let us understand the bare metal server. The bare metal server, which is the very top, is basically like your laptop. 16 GB RAM, mine is 16 GB RAM, yours could be 4 GB RAM, another could be 2 GB RAM. Don't worry about the number of RAMs. That is your laptop, if it's accessible on the internet. That's a server. Is that clear? But that is called a bare metal server. Bare metal server. Okay. Next thing. If after that, you go and you install on that bare metal server, either directly, but the VMs are optional. Virtual machines, as I explained, they are optional, but they enable you maybe run different things on top of the server. So you can either go and get a bare metal provision for you, but most of the time you just want to say, I want Ubuntu 16.0.4 running on this server. Then we'll create a virtual machine for you using VirtualBox and those things. So that's what you call a virtual machine, which is another server. Okay, let us go and set up the dependencies. We understand the embedded. We look at, now we install Tomcat. Okay, let us leave Tomcat alone. Let us go and install Apache or Nginx so that you can run our applications either inside the bare metal or inside the virtual machine. And then we'll find ourselves having a web server. So this is an application server, in short. It's a server at the application level. MySQL is an application, can also be called MySQL server. Hope that makes sense. So you can have an application server. So we had the bare metal server with the virtual machine server. Now we have an application server. It's an application that serves. Then there are two types of application servers. Some that are installed, like you can take your Java file, like what I have here, and deploy it in a Tomcat server. Or you can put a Tomcat server inside your application. And that's what we understand by saying embedded server. Yes, and Alvin, what I have run, for example, what I've run here is an example of an embedded server. It's okay. I'm sharing my screen. That's okay. It is not a problem. Yes, what I've run here is an example of a server. Yes. So I have to go learn Spring. OYF. Yes. So what I have here is embedded Tomcat. It is Tomcat which is within the application. So the idea is that it will start the application, and by so doing it will start Tomcat. That's the idea of embedded servers. They are very common in backend services, and more so I think I've seen them in Java myself. So I hope you understand the concept of servers, the entire hierarchy of servers, so that if someone says a server, you have to ask them the question, which server? So Tomcat is an application server which can run either in embedded mode or in a standalone mode. If it's embedded, it can only run one application at a time because the application starts, then it starts Tomcat. But if it's standalone, just like you can deploy multiple websites in an Apache server, same thing. Does that make sense about servers? Then before we go to the root folders, any question on the servers? And anybody wants to make it a lighter explanation can also come in. Okay. So as you raise your questions, I would like to go and explain application server, application web server, like Apache, Nginx. Those are the most common ones. I know you may not know this, but Nginx actually is more popular than Apache among developers. Yes. So there is what you call the root folders. Root folders is a very simple thing. Which folder do you put your web files so that I can serve them to the public? That's a very simple concept. Where do you put your folders? Do you put your web pages, HTML and CSS files, so that I can serve them to the public? So for the sake of this discussion, I just start a very simple, I just create a very simple file. So now, code. Hey, in case you have a question, please raise it. Okay. So this here we have, I'll start a very simple folder here and call it HTML. And for this one, I'll just put index.html. Now, forgive me for copying, but I just look at a very simple index.html. Page and then paste it here because of reasons very well known to me, where it is. So I'll just paste this and that. Yes, I'll just put this. So this is actually a web page. This is a web page, and I can actually run it. I can open it I can open the folder. There I can just very easily open the folder and then I open it. If I open it, it will come this way. It will show this way. So this is okay. These are, but here I'm serving the file directly. I'm serving the file. Now you're not able to serve the file. We will not be able to serve the file online for this case. So I'll put some content that is a little bit unique. So I'll say this one OYF, Natujenge, and then I'll come and I say this is we are testing deployment in HTML in web pages. That's it. So now, if you come here, you'll see that that's it. But as a file, now if I want to deploy this thing, I can. There are many ways of doing it. I can try to see let me confirm what is running on my port 80 service, Apache, HTTPD. Oh, I have nothing. I have nothing. I have not installed Apache. I have not installed anything. So I have to install it. I have nothing. Sorry, since the laptop is not installed. So I will install. As I wait for more questions, I'll install Apache, the Apache web server, and then I can run sudo. Wait, just sudo apt install Apache 2. Type my password. Good thing I have some that I expect will do quite fast. So now, yes, exactly. It is now running. It's already running. Okay. So if I come here and I come back to my, I hope you're together. I've not left you guys behind. If I put that, there is some content that is by default there. Now, if I want to see that content, most of the time, I don't want to promise this is the case, but actually it has told us this is a root folder var www.index.html. So if you want to change this content, what you can do, we can go to, we can copy our content, cp, no, not there, sorry. We can copy our content, cp html to var www.html. That's our folder, and it's obviously protected for reasons very well known to humanity. And if I do that now, if I refresh now, there goes out. And do you see this now looks like a domain? This doesn't look like a domain, but this now looks like a domain. Can you see? It is localhost. Eh? It looks like a domain, yeah? So basically what you have done there, we have just deployed, we have just done the deployment of okay, I'll answer your question. What you have done, we have just done a deployment of a simple web page. Now, where I've put it, this folder, because I've copied it to this folder, is what we call the root folder. For Nginx, there's a different folder, and I made sure that you guys get to understand that. Most of the time, it's this, and this is the same thing that we'll use in containers. So how to configure your website, your web page, your web application in this case, or website, whatever. Yeah, you can look at if maybe you want to change it to use a different port, how do you do it? And talking about ports, Alvin has asked, you have mentioned that, for example, Tomcat can only run one application at a time. My thinking is that each server has a server port. Each server has a list of available ports. How many are they, Kamochi? So it is possible to run different applications on the same server, but on different ports. Yes. So you are able to run I'm able to start this application, assuming I just decided to waste you guys. Okay, let me look at this guy. Who is this? Yes, you are able. That's the short answer is yes. The long answer is go and try it, but that's it. Steve W. Between Apache and Nginx, which is the most preferred for enterprise level? For enterprise, you use Nginx. The reason Nginx is very robust. It's very good. It's very fast. It uses a different threading model, which I don't want to get into. But for your own project, you can use Apache. Apache is very easy to set up, mostly for PHP applications. It's very easy to set up. That's the answer, Steve. So we have seen the concept of root folders. I'll send you to use Nginx. Try use Nginx on your own, but if you don't use it, don't worry. Life will make you use it. Life has a way of getting its way. Yes. So on the section of web applications, how to run them. Is there anyone with a question? Please post your question. I've waited for the question for a long period of time. Can I proceed to the other part? Okay. Alvin, you're welcome. Steve, you're welcome. Thank you, Peter, for things making sense. Now, I hope I've not left anyone behind. If you are lost in any way, please, I'll give you my contact so that you can talk to me, tell me where you're lost, and I'll dedicate enough time to help you. We are together. Thank you. So I hope now you understand how to run web applications up to that point. And I will take you to the second last point for today using Windows. Any word for the guys using Windows? Yeah, Michael. Yeah, Windows is actually great. I think everything that we are doing has been made simpler for the Windows guys. And in case you want to run Windows on, you want to run Linux and you're using Windows, you can use something called the WSDL. Is it WSL or WSDL? Windows subcommand for Linux. I think it's WSL. Yes, so you can try to use this WSL. It can help you. Yeah, WSL. It can help you run those Linux commands. But Windows by itself, now there are terminals for Git, the terminals for everything. You should be able to do it correctly. But choose the correct command prompt or terminal in that case. Okay. So reading about containers, did anyone encounter a problem reading about containers, understanding what containers are? Now I'm getting now this could be some little bit of challenge, understanding containers. Is there anyone with a question about containers? A container is a unit of distribution, just to make your life easy. Okay, so that's okay. Michael, I think you should be sorted using Windows. Don't worry about that. I'm seeing what if one uses virtual machine to write Linux command. The question that you're asking, what if you install, that's a very good question. What if you run virtual machine to write Linux command? I think that's okay. You see, remember, if you have a virtual machine, then it's like me, who has my Ubuntu here. If you log in there, you can do whatever that it is that you are. Yeah. Okay. So, Steve, how Kubernetes fits in the whole containers picture? It's actually described very well down there that Kubernetes does orchestration. And I explained to you guys how Kamochi has 20 customers, and each for just one service called Tiara messaging, and each service runs 10 microservices. So Kubernetes will help you manage those containers. In case something goes down, it will be replaced without you being called from your lunch to do the replacement. So Kubernetes more like manages containers. And yeah. Okay, so can we proceed now? I'll leave it at the containers and at the containers. So as I had explained, that a container is actually what you need to run your application. And let me give you a very simple, one of the simplest articles that I've ever written, and very helpful. If you want to understand how to write a container for whatever you are running, ask yourself one very simple question: how do I run what I'm building? That question will solve all your container problems. For example, now let me write a container for my website, for my HTML here. How did they run it? How did they run this guy? how to run. Good people, how did we run this? How did we run? First of all, we installed Apache web server. Is that okay? Copy the index file to the root folder. And the root folder was this one. It was this one. So that's the other command that I ran. And then the other thing is what? After that, I open localhost port 80 by default. So if you want to run now, if you tell me to create a container for this guy, first of all, I'll come and I say I'll use Docker. So Docker is a simple guy. I'll come and I create something called Docker file. If you have not seen Docker file, please go to the second section. It will help you in that. And now I come here and I look at myself and I ask myself, Peter, given the amount of work that you have currently, do you want to, how will you install the Apache web server? Two options. You can come and use something called a base image. You can come and say, just give me Ubuntu 16. Let's say Ubuntu 20.04. Then I'll do what I did here. This is a process that I did sudo apt, I ran sudo apt install Apache 2. That is it. But I could also say, instead of that, I can just come here and say from, open my terminal. It is a good solution for a number of problems. And I go to Docker Hub, where I told you it's like the GitHub for images. I look for Apache. And I am told, oh, you're looking for Apache? Then we have an Apache image for you. Then I'm like, HTTPD. I hope these people don't look very serious. No, I won't use that image of theirs. Sorry. Okay, sorry. I've done the thing. Kujikoroga. It's a Swahili word for confusing yourself. Okay, so I can either use that or I can go and look for something else. I don't want to use that from of theirs. The from of theirs is a little bit complex. Now, I can either use the Ubuntu image, then I install Apache 2, and then start Apache 2, then do the rest, or I could just go and use a pre-installed one, and then that will be a little bit easier, because all I need to do is come here and I look at this HTTPD. Okay, let me just use this. So I'll come and I use this, and then it will tell me that I'll just come and I say from this one and use it as my base image. And when I use it as my base image, it will, instead of doing all this, I can just come here and say from this one. And now my root folder has changed. It is USR docs. So I'll come here and I say, I'll copy my HTML folder inside my HTML folder. So I'll copy index.html to this folder. And by so doing, I have actually taken it in this case, to my root folder, and that's it. So this is a full image definition. Now I can come and build this image, and I get myself an image, and if I run it, I got myself a container. Now let me do that in a very quick way. Then I get going. So I can just come and I say docker cd, go to the HTML, and I'll use Docker for this, Docker build, and I'll just build this. And that is it. So I've built a full image from that. and that's very okay. I can tag the image so that I am able to see it. Let me do Docker image ls, and I think where is the image now? It doesn't have a name, so I can name it. So I can do Docker build, and I specify the tag, and I say pmutisia / I'll say OYF or HTML, and I build that. So if I do Docker image ls, and then I'll come here and I look and I have my image there. It's very okay. So that is an image that instead of doing this on every server that you go, you can actually just copy this thing, and you can just create a Docker file, create an image. Then as long as you have Docker, you'll be able to build it, and anyone can run it. Now, to run this image of mine, and I'm hoping that is you can just do Docker run the image of mine, and that is it. So now it is running. Okay, good question would be, how can I access it? So many questions. So for that, that's why I provided the other section, the last section, which I don't know if you guys got there, but the last section which was on the question of containers port. So I'll use this mapping of ports, and I'll just do Docker run, and then I do port mapping. There are port 80. I'll open it on my side as port 80, 90 for whatever reason. And once I run that, I'll okay, I've seen it there. Now I can come here and say, go to, and this may be a little bit confusing in case you have not gone through that. If I go to my port 8090, it actually doesn't work. Yes, it has not. 809. Zero left when I was running. Zero was left behind. You can see that we have the same data that we sent out there. We have the same thing that we installed on the other side, which you have on localhost. We can do it using Docker, and we get ourselves this. Yes, so that's basically how to use Docker to do. If you look at the localhost port 80, this is the same thing, but this has been deployed in Docker. The one which I've seen it 90, this one has been deployed directly on our machine. So that was basically containers, and at some point these containers will be too many that you need something to manage, to help you manage it. I don't want to go through that before you guys get a chance to go through the beginning, the first session. So you will allow me not to really focus on these other bits, but that is how it is supposed to connect. And if you get a chance on Monday, after you have set up the server, I can take you guys through very simple running of containers and building them and pushing them somewhere, and everyone will build theirs. Yes. So before orchestration, remember orchestration is a very simple thing. It's just the management of these containers. It has its own syntax, but don't worry about the syntax. If you understand Docker, you are really a huge step ahead. If you understand containers, you are really a huge step ahead. If you understand how to deploy your web applications, in this case, another like you are ahead of your peers by far. So I didn't have a lot of time, but at least I have enough time for questions. So I don't know if anyone else has a question you can raise, but I wanted to provide you with a simple demo that you can use. This will also be committed so that you can do the commands. Also the commands that I've done, you should be able to do them. So I've done Docker build. I've called it my name. Docker build, then we did Docker run. Docker run, your port of your choice, then you can open it. Open port 8090. 8090. HTTP. Yes, 1890, or another port that you can use, or any other port that you want. You should be able to see this. You should be able to see this. What we have seen here ourselves. You should be able to see this. Same thing if you saw when you did it on the locals. Yeah, so that is it. That's what I had. I wanted to unlock you guys. I hope I have unlocked you, and didn't have a lot of time, but I hope I've unlocked you. In case you have a question, please ask it as I close my session. Okay. So can I count that we are unlocked and take the session back to Marlin? What if you already have another index.html in the root? You see, by doing this copy, you overwrite it. By doing this command, it will overwrite it. That's why by doing this copy, this copy here, you can force it to overwrite. Yeah. Thank you so much. Allow me to drop off.